First of all, both teams won the trade. Both teams won this trade because the Eagles needed to get rid of Carson Wentz. Because after they fired Doug Peterson, which I thought was for Carson Wentz, which that kind of annoyed me. I thought they did it for him. So the Eagles like, you know what? You need to be gone. Now you're selfish. We gave you all that money. You've been hurt. Didn't win a Super Bowl for us like Nick Foles did. Seriously.
He got that ring, though.
So when I look at it, the Colts, he's reunited with Frank Reich. Okay? So that relationship worked out. The pressure's on Frank Reich, and it's on Carson Wentz. And this team, you look at T.Y. Hilton, who 2018 had over 1,200 yards. He needs to get back to that. His last couple years, But now Carson Wentz is supposed to be, in half the people's minds, a franchise quarterback, a top 10 quarterback, maybe a top 6, 7 quarterback. That's how some people view him. That's how some people are viewing him. They said if he had the offensive line, he has the defense, he has the weapons, which he does. He has the running game with Jonathan Taylor, who had over 1,100 yards, still young. And I know the situation went down with Pittman Jr. I think he's going to have a big year. Even though they had the little drama, I don't think it's much. It's just a little respecting here and there. I think they're both going to play well. So the expectations for this team to make a deep playoff run, but at least the playoffs.
Yeah, man, no question about it. I'm definitely right there with you. I would say, of course, the AFC divisional at the very least. AFC title game, definitely got to make a run for that. But you mentioned it perfectly, Jansen. You look at the marriage between Frank Reich and, obviously Carson Wentz, looking at how he was in the MVP year, getting them to that 11 wins, to where they could get home field advantage all the way through the playoffs. And, I know he didn't win the Super Bowl, but he still got that ring. But the biggest thing with Indianapolis is, he's going to have a line that's going to take care of him. He's going to have a culture that's going to take care of him. That team is loaded. Coming into this year, I literally said, Indianapolis was probably going to be that team that shocked a lot of people. And when you looked at how that defense finally started playing out, it kind of proved the point that I made right. But I think Carson Wentz is going to be a good quarterback this year. I don't know if he's going to be, the pedestal that everyone's going to put him on, but I think being reunited with Frank Reich, and then you just look at the rookies on both sides of the ball, and just the team is deep, man. So he's definitely set up for success.
He's set up for success, but this isn't really any different from what he had in 2017. I know everybody's looking like, oh, well, he's got the running game, he got the defense. If we rewind you just a little bit to where the Philadelphia Eagles were in 2017, their offense was 7th in the league in total offense. The Colts were 10th. Their passing offense was 13th. Colts were 11th. It's like they're not looking at a whole lot of difference here. Their rushing offense for Philly was 3rd in the entire NFL.
Wow.
As good as Jonathan Taylor and Mack looked last year, they were just 11th in the league. I mean, their points per game of scoring offense, Philly was 5th in the entire NFL. The Colts were 12th. I mean, it's not like he's stepping in. Like, people are really overstepping what the Colts actually were this past season and what he's walking into. He had an MVP caliber campaign for his 13 games in 2017.
Right.
He had a great roster with him. They're acting like he's stepping into what Brady walked into out in Tampa. It ain't that. The Colts weren't that good, and Phillip Rivers was not bad. I mean, I would venture to say Phillip Rivers was better than Carson Wentz has ever been. He had one flash-in-the-pan season with a great team around him.
Yep.
But even if you look at the defense, the total defense for Philly in 2017, they were 4th in the league. The Colts were 8th. Their pass defense was 20th for the Colts. Rush defense was 2nd. Philly's rush defense was 1st, and their pass defense was 17th. Points per game, they were 3rd in the league. The Colts were 9th. He's stepping into a team that's actually lesser than what his 2017 roster was when he had his quote-unquote MVP season. I don't know why people keep giving him an MVP. He did not win the MVP in 2017.
Right.
That was absolutely Tom Brady that won the MVP that year.
But Fees, he was on his way. Look, I've been the biggest Carson Wentz. I guess you want to put a hater, people will say. I've been very critical of Carson Wentz. But his 2017 season, especially for all his apologists, that was his best season. He probably would have won the MVP that year, or it would have been really close. He was up there. I'm not saying they would have won the Super Bowl. We don't know that. But this team, maybe it isn't as talented, which that's a debate right there. But when healthy, the point is it's comparable. That's why a lot of people, his apologists, are saying, well, if Carson Wentz had a healthy team or an offensive line, which he did have injuries, even though I do think a lot of it was him last year, because you saw what Hurts, he stepped in, the offense started looking competent. Yep. Now, I agree with a lot of stuff you're saying, and I'm more on we'll see. I'm at the point with Carson Wentz, we'll see. Because now you got a top 10 defense, got the running backs, like I said, the wide receivers. You got the coach, so there's no excuses. The pressure is on Carson Wentz. This year, I expect him to be let's forget about the top 10 thing. I'll take it back. Top 7 quarterback. This team needs to make a deep run.
They were 11-5 last year. They're not going to be any better than that this year.
I hope Carson Wentz is better than what Phillip Rivers was. And Rivers wasn't bad. But what Carson Wentz is saying he is, and he's in his prime, he should be better than what Phillip Rivers was.
Phillip Rivers was 68% completion last year with 4,100 yards, just slightly shy of 4,200 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and a 97 QB rating. I mean, Carson Wentz's best year isn't much better than that. The 2017 season, he was only completing 60% of his passes. He threw for 3,200 yards. If you project him out for what he was averaging per game in that season, he would have topped out at just below 4,100 yards.
But still,
he wasn't going to throw for that much. He'd have had about 37 touchdowns, 4,000 yards. The only thing he would have had over Brady in that year was the total touchdowns. He'd have had more interceptions, less yards, and less wins.
I hear what you're saying.
He would not have won MVP. He'd have probably been a runner-up, but he wouldn't have won it.
He was on his way, Fees, to win the MVP. I hear what you're saying about the numbers, but past the numbers, we've seen how effective that Eagles team was. They're darn near unstoppable. Yeah. Well, Carson Wentz, I'm just saying that short period of time. That was a long time ago, but that short period of time. And what Carson Wentz brings here, and this is what I'm expecting past the numbers, is a younger player. Big arm, finally has protection, is not running from his life. He's in an organization that completely believes in him. Because Doug Peterson lost faith in him. He's like, look, I have to pull the trigger. And I agreed with him when he benched Carson Wentz. And that the relationship should make Carson Wentz a better option than Phillip Rivers. Even though I think Phillip Rivers is a better leader, I'll give him that. But I think arm strength, arm talent, be able to make the late game throws. Carson Wentz better be better than Phillip Rivers. I'm not saying he will. He better be. If he's not, then I don't know what's going to happen if he's not.
They're debating Phillip Rivers being a Hall of Famer. Like, just say he better be better than Phillip Rivers.
I'm talking about his last season. I'm not talking about overall Phillip Rivers. That's a different discussion.
Good last year.
He was all right to me. He wasn't that good.
He wasn't that good, but he started getting better at the end of the year. But I want to touch on, like you said, with Phillip Rivers. Carson Wentz obviously has to come in there and be better than what Phillip Rivers was. And I think when you talk about the mobility that Carson Wentz brings to the table, and I think that marriage with Frank Reich is just going to bring, it might not be the MVP like the two of you were going back and forth about, but I do expect them to be a better team. And really don't be surprised if you could see the Colts in the Super Bowl this year. I'm going to go as far as saying that because you look at that defense and you look how stacked they are on the offense, bro. I think they could be a Super Bowl team. I had them as a threat last year. So,
especially
turn down the light over there or something. It's just doing something to you. Did you just say the Indianapolis Colts were going to be in the Super Bowl?
They could.
I don't know about the Super Bowl, but if Jonathan Taylor gets that ball running, he stays healthy, catches some pass out the backfield, they could be a threat. I don't know about Super Bowl contender, but they're going to be a threat.
Colts are Super Bowl contender next year.
Speaking of health. Since 2017, we know Carson Wentz did get hurt in 2017.
That is true.
That's right.
He came back in 2018. He got hurt. Nick Foles took over. He was 5-11.
Mm-hmm. I'm not defending him.
Out of the playoff race. Nick Foles took over. Nick Foles won out, took them to the playoffs, and won a playoff game. He came back in 2019. Got hurt. They made the playoffs at 9-7. It was a very mediocre season, but the division just seems like it consistently sucks. At 9-7, they won the division. He made the playoffs. He got hurt in the first quarter of the playoff game in the wild card round. So, he's really technically not played any playoff games.
Right.
He's got a couple of in one series of a playoff game is all he's played. Then he came back last season, went 3-8-1, and got benched for a rookie. What gives you confidence that he's about to go into Indianapolis and all of a sudden turn into a Super Bowl contender?
Nothing.
He's not that good.
Nothing gives me I'm just saying how they view it. This is a 50-50 thing. I'm with you where saying I personally think Carson Wentz quit on the Eagles. They did everything for him, and you're telling me you can't beat out Jalen Hurts? And I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is a bad quarterback. I'm just saying this team was built for you. So I'm with you, Fees, on personally how I feel about Carson Wentz. He has a bad taste in my mouth, too. I'm just saying what they expect him to do and what at least 50% of the football world wants Carson Wentz and thinks in their head that Carson Wentz, with the offensive line and with the running game and with the right coach, and this is his situation. If he fails this year, I'm not saying nothing.
Oh, be prepared to have to be speechless then. He's going to fail this year.